Typhoon Yolanda, also known as Typhoon Haiyan, was a devastating tropical cyclone that struck the Philippines in November 2013. It was one of the strongest tropical cyclones ever recorded, with sustained winds reaching up to 315 km per hour, 195 miles per hour, and gusts of up to 380 km per hour, 235 miles per hour. Yolanda caused widespread destruction and loss of life, particularly in the Eastern Visayas region of the Philippines, including the hardest-hit areas of Tacloban City and other coastal communities. The impact of Typhoon Yolanda was immense. It caused massive storm surges that resulted in widespread flooding and landslides, destroying homes, infrastructure, and crops. The storm surge was estimated to have reached up to 7 to 8 meters, 23 to 26 feet, in some areas, causing significant damage and loss of life. The devastation resulted in a humanitarian crisis, with thousands of people losing their lives, and millions displaced from their homes. The aftermath of Typhoon Yolanda saw a massive international humanitarian response, with governments, organizations, and individuals from around the world providing assistance to those affected. Relief efforts included providing emergency food, water, shelter, medical care, and other forms of aid to the affected communities. However, the recovery process was long and challenging, and it took years for some areas to fully rebuild and recover from the devastation caused by the typhoon. In the wake of Typhoon Yolanda, there were also discussions and efforts to improve disaster preparedness and response in the Philippines and other vulnerable regions. Lessons learned from the disaster highlighted the importance of early warning systems, evacuation plans, and resilient infrastructure to mitigate the impact of such natural disasters in the future. Typhoon Yolanda serves as a reminder of the destructive power of tropical cyclones and the need for ongoing efforts to address the impacts of climate change and enhance disaster resilience in vulnerable communities. Typhoon Yolanda made landfall in the Philippines on November 8, 2013, particularly affecting the Eastern Visayas region, including the islands of Leyte and Samar. The storm's intense winds, storm surges, and heavy rainfall caused widespread destruction, resulting in over 6,000 deaths, with thousands more injured and missing. The typhoon affected more than 16 million people and caused extensive damage to homes, infrastructure, agriculture, and livelihoods. The storm surge caused by Typhoon Yolanda was one of the deadliest aspects of the disaster. The high winds pushed a wall of water ashore, devastating coastal communities and resulting in the loss of thousands of lives. The lack of adequate warning and evacuation measures in some areas contributed to the high death toll. The international community responded with a massive humanitarian effort to provide assistance to those affected by Typhoon Yolanda. Many countries and organizations provided financial aid, emergency supplies, and personnel to support the relief and recovery efforts. Humanitarian workers, including medical personnel, played a critical role in providing immediate medical care to survivors and helping with the recovery process. The aftermath of Typhoon Yolanda also highlighted the challenges of coordinating relief efforts in the face of widespread devastation. The scale of the disaster overwhelmed local and national capacities, and there were issues with logistical challenges, communication breakdowns, and access to affected areas. Lessons learned from the response to Typhoon Yolanda have since contributed to improvements in disaster preparedness, response, and coordination in the Philippines and other disaster-prone regions. The recovery and rehabilitation process after Typhoon Yolanda has been ongoing and complex. It involved rebuilding homes, schools, health facilities, and infrastructure, restoring livelihoods, and addressing the long-term impacts on affected communities. The government of the Philippines, along with local and international partners, has implemented various programs and initiatives aimed at building back better and enhancing resilience in affected areas. Typhoon Yolanda brought global attention to the issue of climate change and its link to the increasing intensity and frequency of tropical cyclones. The disaster highlighted the vulnerability of coastal communities to the impacts of climate change, including rising sea levels and stronger storms, and the need for adaptation measures to reduce the risks faced by vulnerable populations. Overall, Typhoon Yolanda was a catastrophic disaster that resulted in significant loss of life and widespread devastation in the Philippines. It had a lasting impact on affected communities and highlighted the importance of disaster preparedness, response, and resilience building efforts in vulnerable regions. The lessons learned from Typhoon Yolanda continue to inform disaster management practices and climate change adaptation strategies globally.